Hello, everybody. Welcome to week number 4. We're going to be working on some basic rhythms here today. So let's get into this here. What is rhythm? So in music, the term rhythm is generally defined as a series of strong and weak elements. So that's the definition that we're going to kind of be using, is a series of strong and weak elements. Rhythm is closely associated with the term beat, but they are not the same thing. Beat is talking about a steady rhythmic pulse. It's what you're going to hear to keep all of your rhythms happening at the correct time. And then rhythm is made up of many different elements. All of them receive a different number or fractions of a beat. We're going to get into that in just a moment here. There are several different types of rhythms. In previous music classes, it's very likely that you've learned about a few of those different types. You probably learned about quarter notes, half notes, eighth notes, and rests. If you think back, you probably worked with different rhythms, playing different things on either shakers or rhythm sticks or drums or what have you. In the previous classes, you probably called them something a little bit different. So for example, a quarter note you referred to as a ta. Eighth notes would then be a TT. Half notes, depending on where you came from, if you were Edgebrook, it's likely ta-a. If you were Hilltop, it's probably tu. And then your rest was a sh. So you may have called them by those names and not really referred to them as quarter notes or half notes or what have you, but that should kind of hopefully jog your memory just a little bit here. In this class, we are still going to make use of those Dalcroze rhythm syllables. So that's what those syllables are called. Ta, TT, things like that are called Dalcroze rhythm syllables. But we also want to make sure that we are referring to by each element of those by their proper name. We want to call them what they really are so we can begin having those intelligent musical conversations as the growing young musicians that you are. So it's not completely wrong to call a quarter note a ta. But again, I want you to shift your vocabulary to use higher level musical speech, because now, as 4th and 5th graders, you are more than capable of doing that. So there are two different big categories that we're going to get into today. The first of which is the note. So for this class, a note is going to be defined as an element of rhythm that produces sound. I want you to memorize that, please. A note is an element of rhythm that produces sound. Each of the different note values are performed using a voice or an instrument, and each one has its own unique length, which is also known as a number of beats. So now we're going to get into the different types of notes that we have. We're going to start off pretty basic with the quarter note. So you can see right there it says its name is the quarter note. The Dalcroze rhythm syllable is ta. The number of beats it receives is 1, and the counting pattern is going to just be the number. We'll go into counting in just a little while here, so please just start to remember the way that this is all going to work out. The next note that we have is the half note. You can see right there it is an open circle with a stem coming off of it. The Dalcroze rhythm syllable we are going to use in class here is ta-a. Now, if you use the syllable tu, it is not incorrect. However, quarter notes and half notes are related to one another. They are actually pretty close to one another, honestly. They're just differing by one beat. So changing the vowel to go from a ta to a tu sound, in my opinion, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Now, like I said, is that wrong? Absolutely not. But the way that I teach it, we try to keep the vowel the same so we can understand that those notes are related to one another. So the Dalcroze rhythm syllable we are going to use for half notes in this class is going to be ta-a. 2 beats of sound right there. So again, number of beats is 2, and the counting pattern is going to be both of the numbers that it is part of attached by a hyphen. And once again, we will get into the counting a little bit later. So just remember, it's both of the numbers of the beats attached by a hyphen. Up next is the round open hold circle right there. It's called a whole note. The syllable that we are going to use is ta-a-a-a. So you can see right there we have 4 A's, 4 vowels, and there are 4 beats right there. So that's a great way to remember how many beats and sounds each of those notes gets. If you think back, we'll go back here for just a moment here. The quarter note is ta. There is only one A, and it has 1 beat. If you look at the half note, there are 2 A's, ta-a. It has 2 beats. So, by that same logic, the whole note has ta-a-a-a, and 4 A's right there. The counting pattern for this is going to take up all 4 beats in our measure, and we're going to attach each of those 4 beats by a hyphen to show that it is just one long sound. Next up here, we have eighth notes. This particular version is the pair of eighth notes. You can tell that it's a pair because it is attached at the top by a beam. The rhythm syllable that we're going to use is TT. Should be very familiar. The number of beats received is only 1 though. Now each pair of eighth notes contains 1 full beat. So that means that if you have 2 eighth notes in a pair and 1 beat, each eighth note is only 1/2 of a beat. Please keep that in mind. That's why we changed the Dalcroze syllable from an ah to an e sound, the TT, to show that it is shorter and that it does have 2 beats inside the space, 2 notes inside the space of 1 beat. Let me say that again. 2 notes in the space of 1 beat. The counting pattern is going to be the number of the beat that it starts on, along with that plus sign, which is going to be the word and. And once again, if the counting isn't making sense for you, don't worry, it will. I also wanted to take a look at this one here. It is a single eighth note. You can tell that it's a single one because obviously there's only 1 note there, but the thing that really gives it away is the flag coming off of the note. And what that tells you is that it's an eighth note, not a quarter note. The rhythm syllable is going to just be T, because it's part of the, if you have that same 2-part pair of eighth notes, it says TT. If you break that in half, you just get T for a single eighth note. So right there it says the number of beats received is 1/2 of a beat. So it is quite quick. You want to make sure that you are only giving it half of a beat. The counting pattern gets a little bit tricky. So just file this information away right now, and like I said, we'll practice it more later on. So the counting pattern is either going to be the number of the beat that it is on, or the and. Because remember, eighth notes are the number plus the and. They are both of those together because the eighth notes are pairs. With a single eighth note, you're only going to get 1 of those 2. So just be aware of that. All right, folks? We're going to move on here, and we're going to look at the next rhythm type, which is the rest. So for this class, the same thing that we did with the note, we're going to define rest. And a rest is defined as an element of rhythm which produces silence. Let me say that one more time. Rest is an element of rhythm that produces silence. Each of the different rest values keep your instrument or voice silent for a set length, which is also known as the number of beats, just like the notes. So we're going to move into the types of rests that we're going to be using in this class. We're going to follow the same format. You're going to get the name, you're going to get the rhythm syllable, and you are going to get the number of beats along with the counting pattern. So coming up here, we are going to start with the first one, and that is our quarter rest. It looks like a nice little squiggle right there. You can see the picture. The Dalcroze rhythm syllable is going to be sh. Now, very much like the quarter note, you can see right there it gets 1 beat, and there is 1 H. That's what I want you to make sure that you are remembering too, because the number of beats is going to be equal to the number of H's that are in that sound. So once again, it's sh for 1 beat. The counting pattern is going to be the number of the beat that it sits on inside parentheses. So we put that inside parentheses to show that it is not something that you say out loud. Because even though we are going to say the shush syllable, in reality, when you're singing or playing, a rest is completely silent. But we use the shush sounds of rests to remind ourselves not to play there and that they still take up space inside your measure. The next one here is called a half rest. The easy way to remember this one is that it looks like a top hat that you could possibly put on your head. So half and hat sound similar enough, obviously not super similar, but enough that it can kind of be a silly way for you to remember this. The rhythm syllable is going to be shh. You're going to draw that shush sound out for 2 beats to show that it is taking up 2 beats worth of space inside that measure. The counting pattern, just like your half note, is going to be the number of the beat that it starts and ends on, attached by a hyphen. We also are going to have the whole rest right here. Now this one is a little bit confusing for people sometimes because half rests and whole rests look identical except one is flipped over. So like I said, the way you can remember the half rest is that it is a hat that goes on your head. The whole rest, if you look at it, kind of looks like you could be walking along and then you could fall inside that hole, right? So that's a way to remember it. Whole and whole, those two homonyms right there, are going to be a great way to remember the whole rest. The rhythm syllable is shh. You want 4 beats of silence for your whole rest. And very much like the whole note, it's going to contain all 4 numbers inside that measure, attached by hyphens inside those parentheses, showing us that we are supposed to be silent on those rests. So the parentheses are going to make us think those numbers rather than say them out loud.